Else Realm Diners.
Hello, I'm Mark,
And I'm Ruth.
and welcome to the Else Realm Diner. It came from the swirling depths of the multiverse, a sentient cafe, a cosmic mystery, transporting its clientele through all manner of realms. No one knows precisely where the diner came from. All we know is that it seeks interesting conversation, warm memories, and good banter.
On the menu today is the Alien series and what we consider to be canon and what we do not consider to be canon and what we would like canon to be that hasn't yet been provided to us consumers of this marvelous series, or patchy marvelous. There are some excellent bits, but there's also some downsides.
I think there's now counting the AVP movies. There's now more downsides than there are upsides, actually. But
yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, what have you been watching this week?
Well, this week, or indeed this month, I think probably the highlight for me has been going to see The Batman.
Oh yes, we went to see that together.
We did indeed, and it was good. It was it was so good that we're thinking probably of doing an episode at some point on it. But I think I was struck by the fact that it was the film I really hoped it would be, in so much as my first Batman story was actually it's a story called Batman Year 2. It's not the most famous of the canon. People often point to Year 1 or the Dark Knight Returns and various other, the Killing Joke, this kind of thing. But Year 2 was the first book I came across. It's dark, it's gritty, it's grim, it's gory. It's a Batman learning to be in the city and people learning what it's like to have this dark vigilante in their midst. And it starts out in that book with a gang coming back from a heist. They've just basically stolen electrical goods from they've gone looting, I think in a power cut or something. And there's a TV on in the corner that's talking about, who is the Batman? What's going on? And they're like, don't worry, man, I've left the TV on just so people think someone's home.
I like the fact you read who is the Batman in the like Christian Bale voice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why you want to kill me?
Bale.
Why you want to kill me? Swear to me. No, but and I always thought it was really funny that the thieves were saying to each other, "Don't worry, I've left the TV on so people think someone's home." And they go in, their lights aren't working because they're not suffering from the power cut, but unless their lights aren't working, and they're like, "Oh no, what's going on?" They turn on the torch, and right in the torch beam is the Batman logo, because basically they've just turned it onto Batman's chest, and he's just like, good evening. And then from there, it's all like, quick, shoot him. They try and shoot him with a gun. It doesn't work. There's like a voice coming from nowhere in the room. It's like, if you put your faith in guns, you've already lost. And and he beats them up, ties them up, and then jumps out the window and swings away. And it's that sort of in medias res, in the middle of the story. We were meeting this Batman who is scaring the crap out of criminals. And that's exactly what the beginning of the Batman was, wasn't it? And the fact that you had them literally, light spoilers here if you haven't seen the film, literally looking into the shadows thinking, I think I better stop. I'm going to stop now, or I'm going to turn around. And he might not even be there. They've just got to a point where they're just terrified of what could be there and the fact that he could be there. I thought that was a really great opening to the movie. And along with the internal monologue as well, actually hearing, as you do in the stories, and also Spider-Man does this as well, where you have a little text boxes that give you their internal thoughts. The film opens with him talking about his mission, what he's doing, where he's at, and what he thinks the city is like. I thought it was really good, and in that sense, it felt almost a bit like a Gumshoe movie as well, film noir kind of thing.
Yeah, so I have to say that was my favourite thing about the fact it was a kind of noir detective story that I really liked. I enjoyed kind of the atmospheric elements of it, the fact that it was pretty much all dark. You were constantly kind of in the shadows, kind of with the Batman. And I kind of also liked that we didn't see much of Bruce Wayne, because I don't really like him. Like,
No,
I know they're the same person, but I just find I find that is just uninteresting to me. And I understand why it's necessary and blah, blah, blah. But to me, it was kind of like nice to stay with the Dark, the Batman, and kind of watch him kind of solve mysteries. And, and I liked the fact that when he got beaten up, he passed out and he wasn't like as super as he has been in previous, renditions where he can probably survive a tank missile or something, and you just think that's just not realistic. So I liked the fact that he was just kind of a man and was able to be harmed.
Yeah, well, and I feel as though, again, no spoilers, but I feel as though he starts in a place where he is just the Batman. He's abandoned Bruce Wayne in that sense. He's just angry. I'm vengeance, as he says in the trailer. And I like the fact that his Batman actually is at least 3 different iterations. There's him in the cape and cowl. There's him on the prowl in a baseball cap and a hoodie. And then there's him on his bike when so basically it means that he can almost deploy himself to different parts of the city without being in a cape and cowl and having people point at him. It was a very tactical kind of way of doing it, and crucially, I think it gave him in the film somewhere to go. I think probably the next film, I think they've announced that production is going to start soon. The next film will actually probably have more Bruce, because he's kind of learned that actually without Bruce,
but that immediately makes it less interesting to me.
No, but
I'm afraid.
The thing is, it doesn't have to be. In so much as without Bruce, it's like the money side of things can be abused. It can go haywire, and the city can feed off.
Yeah. Okay. So I still like Bruce in there.
No, I get it. And so as you say, this was a treat if you're not a fan of Bruce. But I feel as though actually they've given us a reason now to understand why he has to do the Bruce thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that's very true.
Yeah.
I would also say as well, like, I really liked the Riddler. And like, it was very clear to me in some ways that the Riddler was kind of inspired by, again, light spoilers, but was inspired by kind of serial killers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not just the Zodiac. There was other kind of bits and pieces thrown in there. But I quite liked that again, it was not camped up. It was sinister. It was very nasty. And I also, again, well, this is probably a big spoiler, but so sorry, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's important for my point. So I really liked at the end, the Riddler coming to the conclusion that Batman was the real face and that it didn't matter who he was behind that visage. But that was then also the moment, wasn't it, that Batman realized he needed Bruce Wayne.
Yes. Yeah.
I loved that duplicity happening at the same time, like one character's twisting one way and the other's twisting in exactly the opposite way as a response to that. And I just thought that was so clever.
Yeah, no, it was, and the fact that you have a Batman who comes to understand that the city needs more than just an angry person. I thought it was good, and the fact that just an angry person is basically the Riddler, or is anyone else who might come along. So, I thought it was good. I thought it was clever. I thought the music was very good. The sound was astonishing. Like just when the Batmobile
I loved
started.
the Nirvana and stuff. Like I was so into it. I was so into that. I was really enjoyed the soundtrack. Sorry, when the Batmobile.
Well. Just on that touch, actually, on that note, the Nirvana, Something in the Way, which was in the trailer, but also literally in the film as the song, which is interesting. The fact that they brought out things like the cues from that song and orchestrated them, and then also as well, Ave Maria played a big role as well.
Yes, it did.
Both in choral form, wind instrument, and also actually even in drums. At one point, there was timpanis doing the Ave Maria notes in the soundtrack. Very quite a good complex soundtrack. Some people have criticised it for being, they sort of say, oh, it's just the Imperial March, that kind of thing. I don't think that's the case. I think no, it was a much more complicated soundtrack than that. I mean, yes, there is the boom, 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 but that's there because it accompanies these heavy footsteps that just scare the crap out of people. So it's meant to be overwhelming.
I definitely didn't think it was as heavy-handed as the Imperial March.
No.
I thought there was a lot more subtlety to it.
Mm.
And I can tell why, like, there were some bits where there was kind of comparisons to that, but I do think they were like in keeping with what was happening on screen and not overpowering what was actually happening. So I wouldn't agree.
No, I don't agree either. But then, in terms of the sound design, the punches, the hits were heavy. You felt, even though the fighting wasn't as choreographed and smooth as we've seen in previous Batman movies, I think that adds to the... That again was stuff that I wanted. Really, I mean, I'm probably in the minority. I know everybody loves Marvel and superheroes, but I just feel like it's too slick, and it's just like, oh, it's boring. Like, who cares? Yeah,
like they're going to make some kind of fourth wall breaks. They're going to talk to this audience. They're going to make some jokes, and then they're going to do some slick fighting moves that are like could be dance moves for how much choreographed they've gone. And I'm like, no, that whole realm has just kind of lost me. And it's not that I can't sit down and enjoy a Marvel film. Like, I can. I'm like, and they're not terrible. They're just, I have no love for them anymore.
No, that's. I mean, we continue to enjoy the stories, especially when they're interwoven with the TV series on Disney Plus for Marvel. But I know what you mean. And in this instance,
to clarify, it's we. Mark and his wife.
yeah. But also, I feel as though the Street Fighter feeling here was interesting. This isn't a Bruce who's gone off and trained with ninjas. I think they hint that he's trained with Alfred, and Alfred used to be because when he said, when I used to work for the circus, that's a reference to MI6. So he was a British.
I only know that because of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But, that has taught me well.
It has taught you well. I think the violence was grounded and it was very good. But also it did have, like I say, the near mythical elements. I mean, Pattinson has said that he drew on, there's a Batman story called Shaman, actually, Batman Shaman. So the shamanistic side of being a symbol and being in the dark and being almost in the minds of other people, a sort of quasi-supernatural being. So it was walking that line between the criminals think he's a ghost, but he's clearly a human being, and we're seeing this human being. He's got some brilliant armor, but he can be roughed up. That's quite cool. But then coming back to just the sound point, just the noise of the Batmobile when it started up. It really worked as a distraction, because actually in the comics, the vehicles the Batman uses. So we've been going on for 13 minutes now on this topic. Okay.
This doesn't surprise me about your enthusiasm to talk about this, to be honest.
It's okay. We'll get into the topic in a second. But in the comics, the cars and the planes in particular that he uses, he can choose when it makes a ridiculous amount of noise. Like in the planes, the technology is that he's using almost like the audio cancelling that earphones use. You can put out a counter frequency to the engines to be quiet, as it were, to be quieter. And then if he wants to, he can make it sound as though, I think in the Red Hood graphic novel, Red Hood is thinking it's a former Robin gone astray. He's driving a car. He's being chased by Batman in the plane. And he's like, if Bruce wants to, he can make it sound like hell is coming down on you, and that's exactly what the car, because it acts as a distraction. Again, no specific spoilers, but something's about to happen, and suddenly, and
I have to say,
it was just amazing.
I again don't care about the vehicles.
No, but
literally don't care.
No, but it's not. I could have
had the whole film without any of the chase scenes, and I would have been equally as happy.
I know. I'm not just. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I do love the Batmobiles. I love the iterative design of them. But more to the point, in that instance, I was impressed by the use of the effect of the sound. So I mean, it was a choice to turn on the engine at that point and stop someone potentially injuring someone else, if you know what I mean. So
I have to say, don't care.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
That was just like, oh, I was just turned on the car. Okay, we're gonna have a chase scene. I'll just sit back and tune out slightly for a moment.
Oh, but it wasn't. It wasn't just that. It was also all of the others. It was a good sound. A good sound.
And you're allowed to enjoy it as much as you do, and that's totally fine. And I am allowed to just put up with it while it plays through.
I should also be clear as well. I don't feel that way about real life cars. I wouldn't want my car to make a noise like that. But anyway, before we start talking about my neighbour being a loud engine,
I was thinking we were going to mention the neighbour.
No, we won't mention the neighbour. But anyway,
shall I have a brief discussion on what I was watching? That I thought was fun to tell you about. Have you seen Mystery Men?
Yes.
Yep. So I've watched a couple of other things this week, but that one was the one that like tickled me that I thought I would share.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
it's a good counterpoint, definitely to the Batman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I found it online for like, I think it was 99p, and I was like, oh, get in my basket, and I bought it on DVD. And I still very, very much enjoy the whole sequence about, I can't remember his name, Invisible Boy or something, where he goes invisible only when nobody's watching him.
Yes.
And I'm like, how does he know that he goes invisible? And apparently he just tingles. And I'm like, yeah, but how would you know that tingling was being invisible? You just know.
Yeah.
Makes no logical sense. And that is part of the joy of it for me.
Yeah.
And I quite enjoy seeing superheroes just
being a bit silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got your digger hero. There's the girl with the bowling ball. That's her
I love her so much.
Yeah.
Although it annoys me that it's called Mystery Men.
Yeah.
And she's not a man.
That's true.
And
mystery
she's fine
people.
with that.
Yeah.
Or just mystery group, just a non-gendered group would be great, because there are more genders than men. That might be news to some people.
That's true. So what? There are.
Oh, don't stop. I'll go off on a rant, and then I'll just be like, that will be the next hour and a half of me talking about like feminism and gender and everything. So let's not do that, because that is not what this podcast is.
No,
you've just pressed a button. I can see it in your face. I can see it in your face. You're like full of mischief.
Yeah.
Stop it now.
Yeah,
Stop it now.
I've just flipped the safety hatch on a big red button.
No. Listen, that's another podcast if we start that topic.
Okay, well, it's high time we actually get into the topic of the day.
Yes.
So aliens, and I suppose very briefly, it's worthwhile just asking, what did you mean by canon and not canon? In so much as presumably, therefore, there's some stuff that you do not consider to be canon that is out there and is claimed to be canon by some people.
Okay, this is going to be really, well, it might not be controversial, but like this is, in my strictest sense, I would only call Alien, not the director's cut, the original Alien, and Aliens, the director's cut, not the theatrical release, would be my full stop on the canon.
Okay. And
everything else, I would challenge its worth.
Okay, fair enough.
But before I let you speak, because obviously my opinion is very important.
Yes.
In my head, I probably do consider Alien 3 to be canon as well, even though I don't really like it.
Yeah.
But then I do also kind of like it, but begrudgingly.
Okay. Well,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And presumably Alien Resurrections just doesn't even enter your wheelhouse then. You're just like, nope. I
can't explain how wrong I feel that is. Well, I can't explain how wrong I feel, but I can also explain why I feel it's so wrong. I don't know if I'd be able to, like verbally express the emotions associated with wrongness to that.
Okay. And that's fair. That's fair enough. I suppose going backwards then, for me, Alien Resurrections is interesting. It was written by Joss Whedon, and it was attempting to draw on a broader aliens world, which we'll get into in a little bit, from the Dark Horse comics. I think it took a left turn with humour. I think there's far too much humour in that film. Far too much weird sort of goofiness, like the guy picking his brains out the back of his head and going, oh, when he's been inner mouthed. But also as well, I like Sigourney Weaver in that role, even though I don't think she's Ripley anymore. And
I
also,
would agree with you there.
Yeah, and also in that film, I really hated some of the set pieces, like the bouncing the shell off the roof to go into eggs and blow them up. Like that was weird.
Yeah.
Like almost like they'd set an egg trap for the heroes as they're going through the facility. But I did like the android. I
liked Call.
Yeah, I thought she was really good. And so I feel as though it was playing with things that I enjoy and that I like. A little bit like when we were talking about the second Blair Witch movie. I can see what they were going for. I just think they didn't stick the landing. I think it was a bit silly, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there were bits about it that I liked. I mean, I did like the character that Sigourney Weaver played. Like, absolutely. I thought that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
A bit silly. I loved the basketball shot, which she actually did, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, that was a genuine one-take wonder, because all hail the god that is Sigourney Weaver. But she isn't Ripley.
No.
And I think it was wrong of them to present her as Ripley. And again, I wanted to mention this. This was one of the things on my list I wanted to talk about. I loved Call, who's Winona Ryder's character.
Yeah.
And I thought that there was a beautiful evolution that then took through the androids, through the first. So Ash, who was trying to kill people, Bishop, who was kind of a fatherly protector, and then you had this rebellion leading Call, and
who's almost like a child.
Yes, and I thought that was a lovely actual path that the androids took that you met.
Yeah.
And so, that I thought was good. I mean, what I think is unforgivable in that film, and therefore cancels any virtues it may have, is what they did to the alien.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
That birthing scene and that gross white monstrosity that came forth.
I've forgotten what it was called, but it's basically a sort of like a neomorph or something, or something like that.
I don't understand why there's this persistent need for filmmakers at the minute to just genetically alter stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why can't they just leave it alone? The alien was great. And then they're like, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll genetically mix it with humans. Like, why?
Yeah. 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 Well, and of course that brings us on to the Predator movie, in terms of that was an unnecessary thing. It's definitely a trope. It's definitely a fashion. So moving backwards into Alien 3, that's a really dingy, dark, grim movie. It had lots of production problems, lots of iterations of the film. At one point, it was going to be a wooden planet filled with monks, for example. Then it was a movie where it was going to have a far bigger population, but eventually it ended up being a almost an abandoned prison facility, a former lead works with prisoners and no weapons, crucially. Partly because Sigourney Weaver at that point was really anti having guns in her movies. But also I think it works. I think that adds a bit of
I think not having guns makes it more interesting.
Jeopardy.
But I'm also like, how contrived is that? Like,
no, it is contrived on a whole planet. There's no weaponry. Yeah, exactly. That's really...
the bit where I was just like, that's 100% believable. Let's carry on. And I mean, they needed to come up with something, but again, I felt like that was lazy storytelling. I really did.
I love this is David Fincher's first feature film, I think, prior to this.
Yes, and they should have left him alone.
Yeah, they should have left him alone. Yeah.
The film that he had planned and I don't know if it's called the director's cut actually, but the film that he did.
It's called the assembly cut. Yeah.
Yeah. That is far by so many orders of magnitude far superior to the original theatrical release.
Yeah.
And it beggars belief, to be honest, that they cut out that entire sequence with Gorick. Like that was the really interesting B plot, like within the movie, and they just hacked it out. And it's like,
yeah. Well,
why?
specifically, what did you like about that?
Yeah, so I liked the character of Gorick. I liked that even in a bunch of misfits, he was still semi outcast because he was like so strange and obviously, you know, had very severe problems that meant he absolutely should have been isolated from the rest of the like race. But he also comes across as kind of benign earlier in the movie. So I liked the fact that he kind of came off as benign, like they all hated him, you didn't really get it. And then, you know, he sort of watches this alien kill one of his friends,
fellow inmates,
fellow prisoners, and then he comes back covered in blood and talking about a dragon. And that to me was like, you know, I got that he would have seen that as like God, a perfect killing machine,
something wondrous.
Yeah, and you know that from the trauma of watching his friend get killed, he's blossomed into like his super crazy state.
But also it's Paul McGann being awesome as well. You know, fantastic acting.
Such a good, which is why it was criminal that it was cut out. But then, they capture the alien, which again, I didn't think was unrealistic. I mean, I thought that their plan was, I mean, it's not the greatest story, but like in the context of the movie, like it was a good plan. It didn't make sense that it wouldn't work. You know, in that sense. So, and it worked. And then it also made sense that he would let this creature out. And almost the fact that he didn't get killed by the creature was this thing of like, for him, wasn't it, that he was somehow able to be this like worshipper of this creature. He'd somehow been chosen. You know, it was all just, all the subtleties of that performance was just amazing.
But also as well, I think there's something in there that's that is tugging in the opposite direction, and that is Ripley's lost pseudo motherhood in that sense. So you've got this man who's sort of almost astonished by and worshipping this very violent figure, and then you've got Ripley who, when they've landed on the planet, and this isn't really spoilers, this is quite an old film at this point, Alien 3, but when they landed on the planet, she's lost Newt, the little girl that she took under her wing in Aliens, and Hicks as well. They're both gone. She loses her hair, which obviously for many people is a sign of femininity, but she has to have her head shaved like the other prisoners. And apparently that was the most expensive haircut in Hollywood at the time. I can't remember how much she was paid, but it was a lot.
Oh, it was a lot.
And
but she looked fabulous. She could rock a bald head.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. And so in that sense, it feels as though you've got this planet full of men, and this woman who arrives, and for me it feels as though there's a tension between the violent masculine and the creative feminine in that sense, which then in the mix you have this alien creature that births out of a cow in the assembly cut, I think, and out of a dog in the theatrical cut. So it's all about, again, life, and it's a pared down. For me, it's a slightly textural, slightly disgusting kind of film, and I appreciate it for that. As you say, it was monkeyed with by the studio. David Fincher doesn't really want anything to do with it. He more or less just says that it's not really one of my films, and he doesn't. I don't think he's ever really talked about it either, officially in interviews. I know that for you, for example, that despite the themes that come out of this loss of a daughter and the violence of the alien and men and on this planet alone, I know that for you, you're disappointed by the loss of Newt at all in that sense.
Yeah, I do bemoan the loss of Newt. But so you have this situation, don't you, in Alien, where she's kind of on her own, and she's like fierce, and then you have this thing where she sort of forms like a pseudo family with Newt and Hicks,
and
like the dog Bishop,
the dog Bishop.
Yeah, but he's like a pet, isn't he, rather than like a family member. And then they just crack all of that away and get rid of it. And I understand why, again, that was done, because the storytellers couldn't imagine you running around that prison with all those men. And I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, that would have made it interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have added another element to it, but also, I mean, some of the themes you were talking about there about the men and the women, like, I don't know if you noticed, but they call all the men double Y chromosomes.
Yeah.
Which, again, there's a lot. There's some science behind that, but again, it's like they're uber masculine.
Yeah.
And like, so I think it was really hammering home like the top end of, like, the 3 standard deviations away from the mean, what toxic masculinity is like. And I didn't enjoy that they attempt to rape her.
No.
I also didn't enjoy that she chooses to enter into a sexual relationship with the doctor guy who, can't remember his name, because that felt very out of character. And I'll tell you why. Because there's a scene in the director's cut of the Alien, the first one.
Oh, the director's cut.
One,
yeah.
Where it's clear that Lambert sleeps with all the men.
Yeah. Okay.
And Ripley makes a disparaging comment about this, but also asks her if she has actually slept with Ash.
Okay, yeah.
And so it didn't make sense to me, because she wasn't that kind of character that would have turned to sexual comfort.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yes and no.
Especially in that place, because she was still in danger.
No, you're right. Yeah, I get it. You're right. The thing is, though, the 2 things come to mind on that front. The attempted rape scene, I think, is important because, one, it's realistic. You've got a planet full of people, some of them are rapists, and along comes a woman. The second thing is that actually that is actually...
But again, that's why is the setting there? Okay, sorry.
The second thing is there's actually an opportunity to show that even within this sort of hyper-masculine, double Y chromosome world, they've created a moral code. So in comes their sort of quasi-religious leader who basically says, I've got to teach the brothers a lesson, and beats them up basically with a wrench. And it's showing you that, because also that there's a prayer at one point, isn't there? They all share a prayer sort of saying, we are woeful sinners in the hands of a wrathful and angry God, or a vengeful God. So they found religion. And so actually... It's hyper-masculine, hyper-violent religion, but I think that's the flip side of that coin for that scene. I think on the one hand it's realistic, on the other hand it shows you that actually within this isn't anarchy, and the moment this guy tries to be an anarchist, be an anarchic power going through just doing whatever he wants without any sort of oversight, he's literally put in his place. So I think that's the value of that scene.
Yeah, well, I get that, but I question the relevance of the setting in its entirety.
No, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why have they why in all of the universe has she stumbled across this planet with this bunch of like monkish criminals doing like, why was that the writer's choice?
Well,
why?
The answer is because it was the writer's choice. That's the point. In so much as it was also the director's choice. I mean, Fincher said he wanted to make an intergalactic snuff film. That was his. Of course, he says that as a young man who's trying to make his name in Hollywood. He says something a bit shocking, but he wanted these extremes to be clashing, and that so this is what I mean by it's a slightly disgusting film. It makes me very uncomfortable, and also the fact that then you have that scene where you've got this busted up bishop who she's interviewing.
Yeah, with the eye.
Again, the eye. It's gooey. It's gloopy. It's disgusting. But then just coming back to this to her, entering into a relationship with the doctor. In terms of her timeline, it's been 70 years. Without...
Yeah, but she was asleep for most of them.
No, but she was. But the point is, it's been a long, long time without any normal interactions, and
Yeah, but if
there was
she was
also
going to enter into a sexual relationship, it would have been with Hicks.
it would have been, but
So
Hicks
she's
is
ended
dead.
up on this. Yeah, I know, but she's ended up on this asshole of a planet,
Yeah.
like in like some crappy part of space. And she's like, I know what I'll do. I'll fuck the same first person that comes along that's remotely nice. When that has been none of the previous like renditions of her character.
No, I agree, but again, this is.
But you're still trying to justify it as a choice.
No, I'm
sorry, I'm getting very passionate.
No, I'm not trying to justify it. I'm trying to say it was a choice, and I'm trying to understand why that choice was made. If that's what I mean.
Well, I think it was bad writing.
I
and this
think
is why I don't like it as canon.
No, but I think it was because the whole film is a sweaty, slightly disgusting, dirty, grim little thing. And in that little world, she finds some little moment of comfort with someone who at that point we think, is this guy a serial killer? What's wrong with him? What has he done, actually? So we are feeling that discomfort. We are, as the observers, as the people viewing the film. So I think, again, as a choice, it works. And in fact, the very fact that we feel so uncomfortable with it kind of works. There's also actually in the original script for the first Alien movie, there is a scene where Ripley and Dallas just finished sleeping with each other, and then a body floats through space and hits the window, and then it was cut out of the film fairly early on in writing. But so even in the first script, she was viewed as being a sexual character. She did and also she has a daughter in the second film, so she's had.
Yeah, but again, I don't have a problem with her having a sexual side.
No,
but what my point is the premise of her character up until this point has been that she doesn't, under a situation where there's peril, she's not like, oh fuck, we better have sex now.
I don't think she does that though.
Yeah, I do. I think it's like, oh, I'm at the ass end of space. Somebody's nice to me. And I'm just like, oh my God, no.
Yeah, I can see. Again, I can see it. I can see what you're getting at. But I guess this is where my philosophy is always, what has this film done?
Yeah.
Not what is this film? What should this film have done? You know what I mean?
No, I get that.
So I'm trying to understand why they did what they did.
No, well, I mean, I don't know that I think I probably understand what's happened in the sense of like I can understand, why they did it, because it's a side you haven't seen of Ripley. It's obviously a side that exists. Yeah. As you say, she has a daughter, and you sort of had the beginnings. Yeah, and you also had the beginnings of what looked like a potentially romantic relationship between her and Hicks.
Yeah, and
so it's obviously is something that is part of her being, and I don't have a problem with that. But again, this is some of the reasons why I have a problem with accepting this film as canon, because it takes me away from what was set up
in the second film.
And what I love about the first and second film.
No, well, in that case, then, moving backwards to the second film, these two, I don't think we have much to talk about because we both love them.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, the second film, Alien and Aliens, if you're listening to this podcast, you've watched them, haven't you? Surely to goodness.
Well, I'm sorry, but if you haven't, pause now and sort your life out and go and watch them.
Sort your life out. Just reminds me of the beginning of Shaun the Dead. Sort your fucking life out. But the thing is, having watched those two, hopefully, you'll understand that the first one is a relatively quiet, studious, reflective, relatively small horror film. Yeah, it's a slasher film in space. It's a isolation. You have a bunch of people, if it was a horror film, who've turned up in a car and seen a haunted house on the hill.
Yeah,
it's the crashed ship, and a monster infects them, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. The director's cut, I think, breaks it.
I don't like the director's cut.
No, with the weird Ridley Scott's idea of the alien life cycle, which by the time he released the director's cut, where apparently this drone is creating eggs out of the bodies of people who it's kidnapped. In that scene that she sees towards the end, and Dallas is there like, kill me. By that point, we already knew what we thought of as being the aliens' life cycle from Aliens.
Yes.
And so to put it in there was just Ridley Scott giving the finger to Jim Cameron,
I agree.
basically.
And also, I didn't think I mean, I do think the alien on its own in an isolated situation has to have a mechanism via which it can either reach out to others or do something. But yeah, I didn't like him adding that. I thought it ruined what was some other nice scenes to put into that cut.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought it really, because I did think what James Cameron did to the sequel was amazing. But yeah, the first film is very dark, slow paced.
The opening sequence is beautiful with the computer turning
it's a bit it's kind of like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
That's it. Yes. Yeah.
It's a little bit reminiscent of that with the like slow pace and the music.
Yeah.
I also quite like that you have these moments where you're in kind of bright, stark light and then in the dark. And I also like how that kind of brings into the stuff about the science element of it. And I think the science in the first movie is really interesting. We get all these kind of little technical details about how the alien adapts to its environment, what it's doing while it's in the face hugger stage. You get these kind of hidden glimpses about like the tube it's got down the neck, the fact that it's depositing this, not the neck, the esophagus? No, it must be the trachea.
Yeah, esophagus, yeah.
No, that would put it in the
stomach.
No.
Oh, sorry, yes. Trachea.
Must be the trachea. Yeah. So it kind of, you've got all these like glimpses, but there's also kind of quite technical language being used about it needing like nitrogen, and it's chemically changing the air to meet its like chemical needs and stuff. And that stuff sold me. And also I really loved the little details in the, when they first find the like eggs in that spaceship and all the like goo is like dripping up. I was like, yes. And I bemoan slightly that those little subtle details kind of got lost in James Cameron's opus following like movie.
This is true. But in that sense, Jim Cameron is the master of part 2, it seems.
Oh yeah.
like Terminator 2, Aliens. Yep. He is the sequel guy. He knows how to do it. And then with everything that you've just said about the first film, I completely agree with. The second film, if the first film is a horror movie, the second movie is an action adventure with some horror elements, and it ramps it up in precisely the best way. It introduces the iconic colonial marines. It has such the boisterous kind of the drumming, soldier drumming, like get on it, come on, oh go. They're all loading up the drop ship. It's just perfect.
But also crucially for me, it was kind of a logical sequence of events in the sense that like this spaceship had been exploded. They send these colonial colonists out to this planet to terraform it so it's suitable for life. They go missing. There's this report that this strange lady who blew up the ship says about alien life forms. You would send in an elite team of Marines. So I mean, from a story point of view, I was like, this is all making sense to me. And that is why this film is like, I would say canon to me because of that, because you have this sequence where it makes perfect sense, and then you have these wonderful elements, and you're absolutely right, the colonial marines really add to it.
I only need to know one thing, man. Tell me where it's at. No,
it's where they are.
Pooh, And then also what was it have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No, have you?
And
I also remember, that bit where Bishop does the knife, like hammering on the table. I remember doing that, like at school and like with my friends and trying to just be like, and slamming the knife down, but not with obviously a knife, with like a pencil.
Okay.
Or something. Yeah.
That makes more sense. You didn't actually go and get a knife.
No. I mean, there's a controversial issue in this film, which is Vasquez is actually, I suppose, in Spanish face, blackface.
Yes, that's true.
She's not.
She's not.
She's supposed to be Mexican, is she?
Well, yeah, Latino in some way. Yeah.
But yeah, she is not.
No.
So that has raised some controversy subsequently. I kind of, maybe controversially, I kind of don't mind, because I think like it wasn't a thing in that time in the same way that it is now. That character is so beloved. Like, she was amazing.
Yeah.
And yes, it perhaps would have been nice to go to somebody with that, heritage. But it didn't, and Vasquez is still amazing.
Yeah,
And
to be fair, I didn't realize that had happened for a long, long time.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I just remember thinking. I remember thinking that actually her background came through quite well, and it was really well. In that sense, I thought it was a rounded character, and I loved her kick-ass nature. So I don't know. In terms of representation, problematic, but as a kid and as a young adult, I thought, wow, that's a badass Mexican, Colombian, or whatever, So, yeah.
Same. And I think, so, I mean, it's really not a discussion of whether, I mean, that's really a kind of out of the film discussion. Is it, should it have gone to a white actress or actor, or should it have gone to somebody of the same nationality?
And today, hopefully it would.
Yes, I think probably it would today.
Yeah.
But I do love her, because she's also in Terminator 2, isn't she? I forget her name.
Oh, she's the mum.
She's the adoptive mom, isn't she?
Yeah.
Who gets like,
your parents are dead.
Yeah, she's the one that like stabbed. She like, her arm turns into the stab, and it goes through the milk carton and then into the mouth of the annoying like adoptive dad, who deserves to die, because man, is he annoying.
He is annoying.
Oh yeah, foster parents.
Yeah. But anyway, so
sorry, yeah.
So Aliens, so Aliens, I think ramps it up in the right direction. It does a very good job of it. It has, it's so quotable. Game over, man. Game over. Mostly. Exactly. So it's a great film, and as I say, if you haven't watched the first and the second one, what are you doing here? So we've gone back from 4 to 3 and forward from 1 to 2. And I think the thing is, you reach this weird point, don't you, where you have to hold the first two films quite lightly. Because if you think of those as being the only way in which alien movies can be made, not that I'm saying that you are, but if the fandom does, then any difference is going to be difficult to get by the the money men, or the people in terms of production of a film, in terms of how it's going to be received. Because obviously we have had god awful follow-ups like the Alien versus Predator movies, which I think were trying something interesting, and they were drawing on. I mean, there's I think it's called Prey. I've got the book on my bookshelf. It's they were drawing on an actual a short story, a novel for the first AVP movie. I thought aspects of that were good, but they had to tone it down to meet a certain, I think it was a 12A certificate. But that's kind of slightly off to one side, in so much as I suppose what I'm getting at is, what would a reasonable next step be? Because the second film does expand. It introduces whole new elements which weren't even hinted at in the first film. This idea of colonial marines, even frankly colonies. There being other human colonies out there. We have Gateway Station at the beginning of the film. The fact that she has a job briefly on Earth. We see hints of this stuff, but because it's been enshrined, for want of a better word. Well, actually, no, I think that's the perfect word. It's been enshrined in this sort of this canonical holy grail of Aliens awesomeness. What comes next is always going to be problematic. And so,
well, I don't know that it is problematic, because what you have to do in terms of what's come next is you have to just not break what's come before. That can have creative challenges, and it puts restrictions on what you can do, but it certainly doesn't prevent you from going in new directions. And it's, I mean, the third movie perhaps tried that, didn't it, with how the Queen was made. But again, I mean, the problem there was how they set the Queen egg up, because that was just they just the whole thing there was just silly.
So I think frankly, even Fincher said, we just have to just accept that somehow an egg was planted was laid in the dropship, you know, and maybe
Yeah, and
the Queen knew, you know, she just psychically sensed her colony had been destroyed back on the LV-426 or whatever, and so emergency, I'll lay a queen egg. I mean, I don't know. It's
yeah, but that to me is that again is like what you need to do is you need to find a way to develop the story that has a logical sequence. And again, that opening gambit took it away from me, because not only are you supposed to accept that there was an egg on the Sulaco, but there was actually another egg.
Yeah.
Or a queen, you know, it's firstly, it's not 100% clear.
No.
But there had to have been two face huggers, one carrying the queen and one carrying a drone.
Yes.
And maybe
true.
it was the same face. Well, no, it was a different face hugger, wasn't it? Because it had I don't know. Anyway, there was a different face hugger in the third movie that you saw when they pick it up and look at it. But
it was. Yeah. So thing is, we also only see one egg.
Yes.
So was it one egg, two face huggers?
Well, so I mean, was it one face hugger that implanted a drone and then a queen? I mean, the question is, like, I don't have a problem with them trying to come up with, like, to extend the universe, but the fact that is so unclear, and the fact that once they had discovered that, like, Ripley was implanted with this egg, like with this, I don't know, alien fetus thing, why were they asking questions like, where did it come from, blah blah blah? They're just like, okay, that's just what's happening. And so I think from my money, what I want from a sequel is not to just accept that.
Well,
and I think possibly the mistake was made in the sense that maybe that was the end of Ripley's story.
Yeah, no, I agree. I suppose what you're describing there, for me, feels like the poor explanation reveals the hand of the writer.
Yes.
You know, you can feel that they just need this thing to happen so we can tell the story we want to tell. You know, and so, but as you say, it's this sort of handing off of the baton that. As we've seen, for example, with recent Star Wars movies, if there's not a plan or if there's not a respect for what came before, it can lead to an absolute car crash. And arguably, the fact that they decided to just invent two eggs for Alien 3, presumably two eggs, I guess, kill off characters who survived in the second film. I guess that's a choice. That's not necessarily wrong or right, but it's something that irked people. Yeah, you can feel the hand of the writer. But
I mean, to be honest, they could have done something like that ship crashed onto a nearby in space, so not even that near, planet where there were just more aliens, because that region of space was infested. Why can't another close by region be infested? Yeah, like that is actually more likely.
Yeah. So are you saying then that you would want to go, if we're talking about sequels, that you would want to go towards almost? Are you imagining that there's sort of like a ripple, a ripple of alien activity from some sort of source or sources that you can drift towards, and maybe not necessarily go to a home world, but go to a planet that has been overrun by this parasitic xenomorph?
Yeah, I think what they should have done is how Predator did the sequels, where they recognized the star of the show was not Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, not that he wasn't great in that first movie, because he was, but the star of the show is the monster, and Ripley got 2 runs at it. And she did amazing. So personally, I think we should have paused her story there. She's had a lovely character arc. Pretty much all you can do with her anymore is either what they did, which was kill off her newly founded family and traumatize her some more.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Sorry. I should explain. I should explain. I laughed there because I just imagined them just saying, "Cry for camera." we need drama. Sorry, go on. Or
you have that group of 4 that survive immediately going into peril again. And I kind of think what they should have done is stopped with the Ripley. I mean, I love Ripley. I would love to see her continue, but I think from the point of view of the canon, they should have gone and done something different with the alien. Not what they did with Prometheus, because that was ridiculous, but something.
Yeah.
You know, another interaction with the alien in a different scenario would have been interesting. And I guess that's one of the reasons why, I mean, I'm not suggesting that any of these films are good because I'm not an insane person, but that's one of the reasons why I quite like the premise of the Alien versus Predator movies, in the sense that the predators view them as this kind of prey item and interacts with them in that regard.
Well, they're almost farming them.
Yeah. But that to me is an interesting development. Like that is, and it fits with, dare I say it, the canon of Predator and the canon of Alien.
Yes. No, it does.
Because they're grisly, horrible things that are hard to fight.
Yeah.
And Predators are like warrior, weird Klingon-y things, aren't they? That are like, we will fight.
Yeah.
If it's hard, we will do it better.
Yeah.
Manly.
Exactly. We'll continue to improve for the sake of the clan. And of course, that all of this connection all stems from Predator 2, when Danny Glover, is it Harkness, I think the character's name, comes across the trophy cabinet in which there is a xenomorph skull at the end of that movie.
But to me, that was nice. Like I liked that nod to that.
Yeah.
That feels that those two creatures could exist in the same universe.
Yeah.
It does. That doesn't mean they needed to make a shitty film about it, or two shitty films about it. But you know,
well, the thing is, they so AVP could have been great. It wasn't.
Yes.
AVP 2 was an attempt to make something that was a bit better. It ended up being actually really poorly lit film where they just kind of tried to go for body horror and shock, really, I think, in some ways. And also as well, of course, you've touched on Prometheus and presumably Alien Covenant. It's telling that we didn't even talk about them in the rundown of the Aliens films, isn't it?
Well, that was because Ridley Scott spent the whole filming of his film going, it's not an Alien film.
Yeah.
Not an Alien prequel. And then apparently it is.
And it totally was, yeah.
Yeah, because...
Yeah. So okay. So and also just a quick review of those two. For me, they're interesting, but they're not particularly good. The scientists on the first film are absolutely stupid. You know, really, really stupid. They don't behave like they should. And the whole idea of them discovering what they discover and this being a mystery come the first movie is a massive plot hole. You know, unless
movie are you talking about?
The
Prometheus.
The fact that in Prometheus and then
you are talking about. I couldn't tell if you were talking about Prometheus or AVP.
But the fact that in Prometheus and then in Covenant, they absolutely established that there's non-human life out there, is a massive plot hole for Alien in that sense. But the thing is, maybe the company hushes it up and they deliberately send the ship in that direction just in case they might come across something. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a film at some point.
The biggest problem to me for those two films is the fact that, again, they messed with the alien, but they also messed with the alien in a stupid, lazy storytelling way.
Yeah.
They had the opportunity to figure out how that alien creature existed.
Yeah.
What kind of biological system would have been in balance with something that predatory? Were they at the top of the food chain? Were they not? In the middle?
Yeah.
Were they not? What kind of planet? What kind of conditions? All of that stuff, very interesting.
Yeah.
And what do the writers come up with? Genetic engineering.
Yeah.
A strange blob of goo that just gets more and more like an alien until Michael Fassbender fiddles with it. And I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just ridiculous.
Well, and essentially using then the alien as an extension of Ridley Scott's Blade Runner obsession with androids and artificial life.
Oh yes.
You know, so I mean, so that's, I guess that's the reason why we didn't even think to talk about them.
Well, no, but I'm like, they're to me, they are not alien movies. And Ridley Scott's first decide, and the fact that they get, and as well, I think the other thing that annoyed me was at that time when the second one, Covenant, was released, Fassbender was in everything. I mean, he was releasing like 2 movies a year, and I was like, I'm so bored of your face.
At least 2 movies, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, can you not just have a little holiday, please?
Yeah.
Because I just don't need to keep seeing you.
Yeah. No,
And
I
then
agree.
he was in that, and then I was just like, this is all just too much.
Well, there were two. Obviously, there was two of his face in that film.
Yes.
So okay, so moving towards that sort of ecosystem, and then trying to understand what sort of planet, what sort of biological contest would end up in the xenomorph, as we understand it. Supposedly the perfect life form, as some people describe it. I mean,
The perfect weapon.
The perfect weapon, yeah. No, it's also described as the perfect life form as well.
But in the context of it being a weapon.
Yeah, but how
it's not a perfect life form. It's incorrect to say that, because as we have seen it observed, it completely destroys its own food source.
It does, but I suppose, okay, it's described as the perfect life form because people admire its killing, I guess.
Yes.
That's it. So yeah, as you say, the perfect weapon, I guess.
But then this is where I think you have to start talking about, like, this is what you're kind of coming onto, isn't it? The alien, and what is it like, and how does it work, and what are the conditions?
Yeah, and the fact that it was apparently inspired by hive mind or hive community life forms like bees and ants and this kind of thing. And I know you've been watching, you were talking about how you've watched Mystery Men and the Batman, but also you, and therefore we had been watching lots of bee videos on YouTube.
Mark watch so many. I was like, bees are amazing.
You'd watch the bees.
Honey solves all problems, and we have managed to avoid the Nicolas Cage rendition of the bees as well.
That's true, yeah.
But
my eyes, my eyes.
The bees. Right. Anyway, God bless Nicolas Cage. He is a scene-chewing marvel.
He is.
I do actually. I think I have recently flipped into. I know this is a slight aside, but I need to just throw out some Nicolas Cage love. I have recently just fallen in like absolute admiration for him. Like, I just think he's amazing.
Yep.
And I can't understand how I used to just be like, oh my God, he's terrible. And now I'm just like, I just need to see everything. Everything you do is just so weird.
Oh, to take his face off. His face.
Yes, his face off.
Off.
Yes.
Anyway.
Sorry.
It's okay.
But yes, bees.
Bees, yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching lots of bees, and actually from a biological point of view, it's quite interesting to kind of superimpose that kind of colony structure onto the alien life form. So, and we definitely get a sense of that in the second movie. We have the Queen, who is mainly looked after by other things. She's kind of stuck in one position, and she lays these eggs, doesn't she? The aliens around her look after her. We get this sense that there are drones, and that then obviously once they're
secreting resin as well, a little bit like bees.
They secrete the resin that becomes it's not resin, it's like alien propolis.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Holds it all together.
Yeah.
So all of that's really cool. What we don't get though, and this is the bit where I think they took a mishap in the third movie, was you see like the egg and then the face hugger and then like the alien as this drone, and you see the Queen. But what you don't see is a breeding cycle.
No.
Now their breeding cycle doesn't work. From a biological point of view, that just doesn't work.
I suppose what they show you is actually it would be a form of cloning. It's passing on from one source genetic material to another single source. And maybe actually though, the breeding is in mixing of those two sources. So as with Alien 3, the dog
you think they're getting genetic
a dog
material
alien.
From...
Or an alien that walks on all fours. The alien that comes out of humans walks on two legs. So maybe actually what they're doing is as it were, the mummy or the daddy is the face hugger, and the other aspect, the other half of that equation is the recipient, is the host. So that's
possible, because that's also hinted at, isn't it, with the hybrid alien predator in the AVP movies. So but I mean, from a biological point of view, I don't really buy that, because the DNA like mixing like that just isn't
Well, but as you
really
say,
possible.
it also raises a question as to what is the origin, what is the biome that would result in this being a successful strategy.
Yeah.
So
Because I think they should have gone and done like what bees and what ants do, which is, if you imagine what seems to be hinted at in the first two movies, is this is a kind of interstellar hive system. And they came across, didn't they, a dead hive that gets activated. So I
Well,
think there has to be a way of getting from dead hive to reproducing and spreading out. And that's the bit they're missing. So the mechanism in bees where they do that is they have like male drone bees who are like pretty useless, and all they do is eat and then have sex. And you have like queen bees are made who go and do like a mating flight. And then they come back, and then you get swarms and stuff. I mean, all of that is like rich
and
storytelling.
And the way that a hive without a queen will swarm and maybe become lost or become a bit pointless. If they can actually turn on a queen if they don't like the queen, they can make another queen with royal jelly. There's lots of potential there.
And they just missed it. They were like, let's just put an egg on the ship retrospectively. But that to me, this is where I get frustrated, because like there is so much rich potential in those two movies and places that you could go,
but instead they went with genetic engineering.
And it's lazy because you don't have to understand anything. You don't have to understand an
Welcome
organism.
to Hollywood, Ruth. Welcome to You don't have to understand anything. Exactly.
No, but I would have at least wanted the storyteller. Like, I don't need necessarily to have that microcosm of science explained in the movie. Like, that kind of level of exposition is not required. But there has to be, the story writer has to have a mechanism. And that's the bit that's been lost. And I think that's where they should have gone. They should have gone, that colony has died. But where did that colony come from? And where did the eggs come from?
Well, but actually, I think
random egg sample somewhere.
Well, but actually, if you compare this to bees, it's not a dead colony that they come across. It's a colony that's being transported. So it's almost like beekeepers moving a swarm, possibly from one place to another in a controlled fashion. So again, the engineers, or whatever they you want to call them, the aliens that were dead in that spaceship in the first film, could have been like intergalactic beekeepers. And so there's lots of potential there. But that's going in that direction. I suppose the direction that I'm drawn to, away from, I suppose, looking deeper at the biology, is. And I think that's important, though. I'd want to see more about the biology, but actually is bringing in more of that world that was hinted at in Aliens. So maybe in tandem, these two things for me would be brilliant, because I'm surrounded at the moment by, I say surrounded, on my desk I've got lots of graphic novels and things here, which I did lend to you at one point, but you didn't get around to reading them, because I don't blame you. I lent you too many at one time. I should have just given you one book. But there are stories like, for example, there's one I'm holding here called Aliens Labyrinth, which is frankly, it's got the most disgusting single image I've ever seen in a comic book in it. So much so that I don't really read this book often at all, because I just go, oh no, it's so horrible. But this explores again biology, and actually an isolated hive that humans come across, and these aliens, these xenomorphs, are they've basically fallen out of a breeding cycle. They don't have a queen. They don't have anything that they can use to reinvigorate themselves. So they start to use the humans in some of the most horrible ways that I can possibly imagine.
This does actually sound like it's worth a read. So
it is worth a read.
Explained this to me, I might have read it.
Yeah. Well, actually, in fact, the opening of this book, this just before the prologue, introduction, a fertile hive. They're everywhere, the aliens. And it's talking about how if a hive becomes infertile, what happens next? And in come these humans with genetic potential. There are male and female in this family, and it's completely
Okay,
gross.
so they are then taking the genetic material, because again, I don't think that is hinted at in the first
No,
or the second movie.
no.
I think that's been something that's added later.
Yeah.
And I kind of think like, I'm not sure that it needs to. You don't get in a host situation like that normally. You don't take genetics from
No.
the host organism. And because they're indiscriminate.
The host is an
almost,
environment.
Yeah, and almost else because they're kind of indiscriminate about what they choose to be a host, aren't they? Like it just has to. It seems to be. It just has to be the right size.
It does, but the thing is, I mean, you're talking about a real world host environment, but it's clear though in the films they've established that the host has an effect on the outcome.
Only after the third one.
Yeah, well,
Only
yes,
from the third one on.
But that was a
that's
fascinating
why I'm kind of
potential,
channeling. Yeah, it is, but I kind of don't like it. I still think that's lazy.
And that's absolutely fine. There's another book here, Aliens Genocide, where actually you have an offshoot of the xenomorph. I'll just put it up to camera so Ruth can see it. An offshoot of the xenomorph, which are basically mutants. They have a reddish hue instead of being that sort of gunmetal grey and purpley blue hue, and this is about two different colonies fighting each other on a particular environment, where in come the colonial marines to harvest aspects of these creatures, because they want to again, it's always about wanting to. There's always some bad guy or some evil corporation that wants to weaponize them. But when they get involved in the mix, this sort of, again, you've got this idea of a sickly hive. Again, I really like that. So in this instance, it's a sickly hive, a mutated hive, and a quote unquote normal hive, and humans get involved in the mix by accident there. That's a cool potential. There's offshoots where, I suppose, drawing a little bit on what we see in Alien 3, and people maybe falling into being in wonder of the creature. There's something called, there's a book here which is called Alien Salvation, which absolutely plays with religious tones and themes. And again, it's preserving. Because the thing is, what you've described is you possibly want more specifics, but you don't want them to be rooted in the familiar. And
yes,
and so
because I love the world of like the aliens. I like the idea that there's these like huge shipping spaceships, and like they're just moving stuff around, and that people are colonizing things.
But the idea that people that people made androids who made aliens is just dull, and so in that sense, a story like Salvation, where it's playing with religiosity, actually preserves, in that sense, the mystique, the mystery of the creature, and that's something that all the way back to the first film, for me, was most important. Was this where the hell did this thing come from? What the hell is this thing?
Like, I like the fact that not everything about it is explained.
Yes,
because you only get explained what you run into. In the interactions with them, because
and what it does
too
to
dangerous to study.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and again, that was the problem with the fourth one. They're trying to study them.
They're trying to study them, but actually there are ways of playing with that as well. So this is a collected edition called Aliens Hive, where you've got, can you see on the front there, you've got a dog.
A dog.
Who's just playing fetch with an alien.
Playing fetch with an alien, of course.
With a xenomorph. But the thing is, though, on the back of the book, you can see that actually the alien is in fact it's actually a robot. And so what they've done here is this is, instead of having aliens in a box and someone sort of weirdly kissing the windows, as in Alien Resurrection, here you've got people who are trying to study a hive, a little bit like we do on Earth with like penguin colonies, for example, by putting like
a robot
in there. Yeah. And so this is an advanced version of a stone with a camera in, or a penguin on, a fake penguin on wheels. And the story that comes out of that is again, it's much more nuanced, because what they're able to do is they're able to interact with the creatures to a certain extent by having this sort of this mediator that is the robotic creature. But of course, as has to happen in an Aliens film, it all goes wrong. So so again, there's stuff to play with there, and that's without going yet to back to Earth, or back, going backwards, as it were. In terms
I mean,
of
I have to say, I don't necessarily think that going to Earth is particularly of interest. I mean, I can understand why there's a fight to keep the alien away from the home planet and stuff, but I think we don't need to see this, really. I mean, I was wanting to mention about the emotions. In the first movie, it's a terrifying... I mean, I was scared watching it. I mean, I remember like white knuckle fingernails making moons on the inside of my palm. Like, I was scared. And the face hugger, that idea of being like suffocated and like put into a trance and having your face covered and not being in control of your own breathing was, and the danger of asphyxiation, all of that was just kind of like, it created emotions in me. And like the bit where they're like, they've got that motion detector thing with the bleeps, and I'm like, oh, rah! And all of that was amazing. And then in the second one, you have multiple face huggers running around and loads and loads of stuff happening, and it was terrifying that these creatures were after you. And again, you have this kind of like building with the motion sensors and all of that, and it's like, I want these movies to make me respect how dangerous these aliens, the xenomorphs, are. And like, I have had those emotions when interacting with other parts of the world. So like, I like the Alien versus Predator computer game, or multiple ones, where you play as the Marine, because you are and particularly, I mean, I find it really horrible to do, but I particularly like it when there's face huggers after you, because I'm just like, oh, I do like it. And the fact that they come on the screen and they're like, a little bit pulses in the middle of the screen, like it's trying to actually get out, and I'm like, gross. But that to me was recreating. So even though those games are not necessarily the best on the market that computer games ever made, for me they hold a real like place for nostalgia, and that creating that sense of like, oh my god, this is a terrifying monster that you are having to figure out how to move around, you hide, you shoot, and that to me was something that I would have wanted. I wanted to feel that sense of pursuit, danger, terror in all those stages of that alien's life.
The thing is, I suppose we need to just be careful here, because I mean, we've already pointed out the problem of having certain experiences enshrined in how we feel about them and how we think of the alien as the alien movies as working as experiences, and also, as you say, the computer game, like evoking an emotion. And so what you're describing is not so much that you need a new film or canon property or TV series or something to be them, but you need it to feel like it. And so, for example, for me, I would also add on to that I don't require fan service, if you know what I mean.
No, absolutely not. But I wanted it to emote a sense of scariness. And I think the third one, because you don't really see the face hugger, was a bit like, whereas I think that incubation stage is terrifying, in the sense that, like, you're either aware of what's going to happen, you can't have it taken out, watching somebody in this impending situation, like, that's a lot of interesting dramatic emotions, or even being chased by them in the way that like Newt and Ripley were in the second one, in that medical scenario. That's scary. And then the action sequences where you're actually going up against the adults is good. And I just don't think that the subsequent ones have managed to do that well enough. Like, I didn't care or know, I think, the characters well enough in the third film.
There was also a huge time jump as well. It was like 100 years or something, wasn't it? in the future. So yeah, there's no connection at all in that sense, very, very specifically. But just coming back to the third one, actually, interestingly, I can see what it is that Joss Whedon was trying to do. I can see that he was trying to bring in to the cinematic universe, if you want to use that term, aspects like space stations where weird experiments were happening, where people were interacting and messing with, cloning technology and trying to replicate the creature. And so another one would be Aliens Stronghold, where what they actually have, and this is actually a really clever extension of a world with synthetics, is they have a synthetic that's not even trying to look human. That's just basically a monster that's there. Well, not a monster, a giant monstrous robot that's there to...
He looks like a golem.
Yeah, like a golem, exactly. There to help manage the aliens and the eggs. And so, again, it's this weird sort of crossing the lines into that sort of beekeeping aspect, this idea of trying to farm, trying to control, and in a way which isn't as clumsy as Alien 3 managed it. It's much more, it's asking questions about that. I suppose ultimately it's asking questions about the hierarchy. And so, our questions about what sort of environment results in the xenomorph is one about hierarchy as well. And I guess it all plays out because if, for example, if we were, you and I, not that long ago, we played the arcade game Aliens Armageddon, where it was just a free for all colonial marine shooting.
Can I just point out that I slightly beat you?
You did. You did very well. You did
every
excellent.
Single version because I really like shooting games.
To be fair, it's a cooperative game, but yes, you got a lot of points. My
score was still higher.
Yes, your score was higher. Honestly,
I think I beat you on the Jurassic Park version as well.
But really, all that game was achieving was just showing you, actually, if you do go back to Earth, the ultimate outcome would be just all you could do cinematically. I imagine would just have the whole planet be in peril, and there's aliens everywhere, and we've got to stop them. And that's big Hollywood. That's probably appealing to a certain demographic and would look really great in a trailer. But it doesn't go into these themes of things like hierarchy and the nature of humanity and other biology in the universe, which also as well, actually, if you think about it, the hierarchy is there in if you include the synthetics as well, and where Ridley Scott went down the route of just being obsessed with this notion of synthetics and creation and humanity's creative instincts, and can you pass this on to a machine? I think just a sidestep from that could really get into these themes in a really clever way that could bring in horror, could bring in religion, could bring in everything from action to that haunted house kind of feel. I don't think they went in the wrong direction in Aliens Resurrection by having, for example, an isolated space station, because that's why a lot of these comic book stories occur. But
I agree with you in the sense of the ideas that are being explored in Alien 4 are interesting. I think that, yes, I like, the space station had a believable backstory, the structure and the way that was going. I even bought that they were kind of illegally selling humans. I kind of got all of that. But it, as I say, they committed a cardinal sin with the alien transformation for me, which kind of overshadows. But you are making a really good point in the sense of like, there was an attempt there, wasn't there, to explore and come across some of the more interesting world building hierarchical stuff, and the fact as well that like Call is pretending to be human. That robots are not trusted. That again, it's kind of it's an interest. And that is, I think, something that they definitely did well in that. I loved Winona Ryder in that, and I loved the Ripley alien hybrid relationship that she had with those two characters was beautiful.
Well, again, it was sort of weird. It was like, I'm not human, you're not human. I know, let's have a weird sort of
let's not be human together.
But of course as well, on this front of asking questions as to what happens next, there is, of course, the cancelled Alien 5 project. Neil Blomkamp had a film in mind. Sigourney Weaver was on board, although, as you say, she doesn't have to be on board. You know, that's probably the mistake that the Terminator franchise has made, is always having to have Arnie there. But Fox,
and not having Sarah Connor.
Well, exactly, yeah. But Fox turned away from that in order to let Ridley Scott tell his Alien Covenant story,
which was such a good idea. I mean, the whole world has benefited from this. We have more Fassbender. I mean, what more could we want?
Exactly, more Fassbender. But
evil mutating slime.
Absolutely.
Like, that is just storytelling magic.
Exactly. You're not impressed with their choices, but it's clear that and this is, for me, this is actually the heart of, in terms of a creative endeavor of the Alien movies, is that they started off in a place where they took a risk on new talent. So they let people like Ridley Scott make this quirky film. They let Jim Cameron, who'd come out of special effects, make his spin on it. They let David Fincher, who'd come out of music videos, make an Aliens movie.
Didn't let
Well, no,
him,
they didn't, because they started to see
that.
Yeah, they started to see that it was a moneymaker, and then from then on, it became, let's get in a French art house director who did Amélie to do Alien Resurrection. It became.
But it's really cool because they swim in space.
Well,
who cares?
They're swimming. Well, to be fair, they're swimming in water.
Yeah, but they swim in water in space, and this was like, there was so much. You remember? I don't even know if you do remember, but there was so much buzz. They were like, "Oh my god, this is the first time we've got people in water, aliens in water swimming in space." Whoa! I'm like, I don't care.
In space, no one can hear when you dive bomb.
No one can hear when you drown,
Yeah.
whether you're in space or not, because it's a silent death. And that is what happened to that amazing premise. Sorry, I know. I'm obviously feeling angry today.
You don't like it. You don't like it.
Not.
It's okay. But and to be fair, I really don't love it. I can see what they were trying to do.
Much less willing to damn things compared to me. You're like, let's find the nice, and I'm like, no, trash. Just throw it on the fire, burn it. You're like, but there's some things about it that are nice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is unforgivable. It's gone.
You're absolutely right. But in this case, I mean, Neil Blomkamp isn't so much an unknown director, but he has come from
an unsuitable director.
Well, unsuitable, but I suppose it was more. It was closer to that notion of, let's bring in someone fresh and see what they do with this property. He'd done obviously. That combination of aliens and humans in South Africa kind of flavor before, and also elements of body horror and all that sort of thing. So it would have been fascinating to see. There's some concept art out there that showed Sigourney Weaver with sort of like a sort of a mesh mask thing over her head. I'm not really sure exactly what was going on. I don't think now, it doesn't look as though we'll ever find out.
Because they just made stupid decisions.
Yeah, the latest thing here is that Blomkamp says, I don't know, to be honest, what the status of the Alien project is. I'm not sure that I would do that project now. My assumption is that it's completely dead, he said. And so we talked about different things that can come in terms of thematics and settings. But maybe the answer is that what they need is they need what they need, given that Ripley was such a significant character in throughout the series so far, is they need a fresh, new directorial voice that they're going to take a risk on, not have too much oversight on them, and
maybe not go too
with
much
a woman
of a budget
as well. Go bring in.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a female director get a shot at this.
Well, actually, I think this is actually a film about women, because all the aliens if it's a hive, would probably be women.
Yeah.
Ripley's a woman. The Queen's a woman.
Yeah.
And that's sort of
but
maybe.
But also as well, that's why Alien 3 is quite interesting. Again,
Yes.
feminine, ultra masculine. Yeah.
You know that you're absolutely right. And then and also it does that thing, doesn't it, with bringing Ripley from like human motherhood, with the new character, through to alien motherhood, where she could potentially be the birth of the next.
But also as well, somewhere in between, she becomes a sort of humanity motherhood as well. So there's a point when she's telling them, look, we need to survive this. You know, these people are coming, but they think we're crud. You know, and the fact that she doesn't say they think we're human shit is actually really telling, because it's almost like she's a mom, inverted commas, talking to these men who are basically childlike. You know, it's violent, rapey children, but nonetheless
violent, rapey children. Yeah, but then everybody sort of seems to do that, because again, that was the thing that I mean, I know Ripley has got more experience with those aliens than anybody else by this point.
Yeah.
But she's not a superhero.
No.
And, you know, I kind of almost feel a little bit like she is given superhero status because she survived and she knows more. And then she spouts off all this kind of like pretentious bullshit. It's like a lion. It likes to stay close to the zebras. And it's like, again, that kind of took me away from what Ripley was, which was just not those kinds of things. But it was doing some interesting things, wasn't it? And it was exploring some of those things. Yeah.
But in that sense, then, again, a new voice, a new take, bringing in some of these aspects, and also having. Yeah,
and I would think it would be good to take it back to maybe like that character kind of study, in the sense of single, small group of people. In peril, you know.
And incidentally, character doesn't mean having a shower together and getting killed. That's not character development. That's just a bit of titillation. Yeah. But yeah, actual character. Truckers in space. That's what the first one was. Truckers in space. You know.
Yeah, but also it was a rape alien rapey monster, wasn't it? Was the idea as well. They wanted like an alien.
Yeah. Hence H.R. Geiger.
Rapey.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, like, I love that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of H.R. Geiger. I find his work so provocative, actually. And I equally find it disturbing, but also fascinating whenever I look at any of his stuff.
You're the only person I know who's actually got a piece of his artwork on display in their house.
Yeah, but I genuinely love it.
Oh, exactly. I have some of his art books, but I wouldn't hang it up.
I am not ashamed of my
joy
I don't blame of the phallic-like shapes.
Yep.
And the... there's lots of vaginal mechanic-y and, you know, but I actually find that it does create that disgust element in me, but it also creates this I can't look away kind of thing. And actually that, to me, that aesthetic was absolutely perfect for the that intriguing nature of the alien having that kind of like that phallic head, you know, that was just like basically a huge penis. And
this will penetrate you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then it's got like that huge jutting out thing, and it's all I mean, I think the design and the stuff that he came up with, and that kind of like hybrid of like biology and mechanical stuff, with like, because like the tubes look, you know, there's like tubey bits on them look like mechanical, and then they
little
have
details like the fact that they have 6 digits on their hands.
Yes.
And the 2 middle ones, the 4 middle ones are together as 2 double digits. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think that design is just brilliant. And actually, I think it would be interesting, because I think there's been a veering away from that. Even in Cameron's movie, there was a veering away from that, which, and I mean, to be fair, they designed the Alien Queen, which, you know, French kiss. It was
Stan Winston.
Amazing.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, you cannot fault that queen. So in that sense, I'm like, yes, but also I think you can go back to the more sinister, and I think they tried to with that like weird hybrid white monstrosity thing. They tried to go to like somewhere in the uncanny valley, where it sort of looks human, and it did have that sense to me of like grossness and disgust that the Geiger stuff gives me, but that particular rendition of it just made me want to turn away and never look back, whereas the Geiger stuff drew me in.
Well, I think they also tried it with AVP2 as well, when the Predator drone hybrid takes over a maternity hospital and starts interfering with pregnant women by putting stuff down there through their mouths. Presumably, apparently,
this needs to be. We don't talk about AVP.
No. Well, no, we don't. But also, actually, if you think about it, that makes no sense. How on earth do you put something through the mouth and it ends up in the uterus?
It would have to go to the blood.
Yeah,
you could do it through the blood.
But these are huge, kind of like, you can actually see them going down the throat. These sort of like egg type things. Basically, I think that was written by a man who didn't want to know too much about what happened.
Let's not understand human or female anatomy. No. It's too complicated. There's too many tubes.
But that's the
You've
thing.
You've got too many holes.
No, but that's too many holes. Oh no! Oh dear. So you just reminded me of a really okay, folks. This is teenage slight crassness, but just bear with me.
Oh no!
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's not disgusting. It's just. Is
it going to be about the hoggle peeing thing again?
No, not the hoggle peeing thing. No. It's not Labyrinth. But that too many holes. I just heard one of my friends in high school, and I didn't like him very much, but you hang out with all sorts of people in high school, and he just came out with this phrase one day. He said, "Any hole's a goal," and you're like, "Oh God, yeah." So too many holes. But no, but you see that mystique of the feminine, that fear of a teenage boy, or that fascination of a teenage boy with any form, any version of the feminine being both an attraction, but also something which is potentially dangerous, something which they want, but also something which can lead to complications. I think that's precisely why actually having.
You need to watch that film, Teeth.
Oh no! I've heard about that one. Oh.
Reece, you should watch it. It's funny.
You're not helping.
Sorry,
I'm getting
off track. Getting off track.
But that
munch.
No. Yeah, indeed. Nice hot dog.
So you just took it there that time. That wasn't me.
No, in all seriousness, though, that moment, that place of discomfort, particularly as a young male sort of mindset, looking at Alien and at women and at femininity, is why I say, or why I suggest a female director would be amazing. It's not just saying, oh, it's time for a woman for the sake of it. It's because actually, I think she would be amazing at really getting under the skin of what that's. Well, no, but
that's. I mean, I that's why I was kind of like coming at that with the like it really is about women, with all the aliens must be female, the Ripley character, the motherhood themes, the all of that.
It's in there,
It's in there, yeah.
But it's also about it's about when two different forms of life meet. Again, the first one was so powerful because, as you say, they hinted at the fact that maybe actually the facehugger is there as a sacrificial element because it's partly there to acclimatize whatever it is implanting to the environment that it finds itself in, and it's there's all these beautiful things that could be used, and I think that's probably why it's so painful when we see them being
destroyed,
or being rolled out like a Universal monster movie mashup, as they have done in recent films. Also, as well, just while I've got these in front of me, have you come across, Ruth, or did I tell you about Newt's Tale? A two-part.
You did tell me about Newt's Tale, but I didn't read it.
No, it's a two-part comic series.
All the comics you lent me.
I know you should do a two-part comic series that explores what happened to Newt between I suppose the flashback that we see at the beginning of the director's cut, where her parents discover the crash ship, and her dad gets egged. And then when the Colonial Marines arrive, it's her. Basically, this is mostly the comic book series in two episodes.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I might have to borrow them. I have had a little bit more of a conversation with you about them now, and have actually got some level of interest. You have been persuasive.
But and this is why I appreciate what Whedon was trying to do, because there's lots of rich potential that lots of other people have done. Some people have done the work here. They've done the work of playing with these themes, and we just need a clever person, a clever writer, to work with a director with vision, to go back to basics, not try to explain it, but explore it. If that's what I mean.
Yeah,
that's it.
And that's actually probably a good point to end the discussion, isn't it? In terms of like what we want something to go back to basics, to explore some of these interesting things, not necessarily try to take it into a new and contrived direction.
Although on the notion of the bees, I know you're trying to bring us to a close here, but on the notion of the bees, you know how bees, they dance, don't they? So they'll
wiggle their booty. They're like over there to the left, over there to the right. Booty wiggle.
They'll convey information.
Feel the pheromones.
They'll convey information.
Nobody could see me, but I was actually dancing.
You were.
I was actually bee dancing.
You were.
Yeah. Check me and my badass out.
They convey.
Sorry.
They convey information to each other about, for example, where nectar sources are through physical and pheromone interactions, and it just made me think, what would an alien, a xenomorph equivalent be? And I like the idea of one of them just sort of holding up their hand and doing like a walkie with the other hand, going, humans, there are humans over there. Walkie too.
Well, you sort of get it, don't you, when Ripley and Newt, who's like in her arms, go to the thing and she's like, does the flamethrower, and it goes, and then the alien queen's sort of like
yeah.
So I have this like thing and then that's what they use is like the breath test, isn't it, to open doors. So I just have this idea that the queens are all like going yeah.
They talk.
Sorry if my microphone went all gross.
No, that was fine. That was fine. Some people pay for that. It's okay. But also as well, actually, something else as well, which just another couple of little flavors that could be brought into this notion of exploration and not explanation. Is it's talked about in the comics that the aliens communicate on a pseudo psychic level. So they talk. They're literally,
and
a
that's
hive
definitely
mind.
hinted at, isn't it, a little bit in terms of like. Oh, but having said that, it doesn't necessarily have to be that, because like bees know what to do, don't they? Without actually.
Yeah.
So you could have that. Yeah, but that's again exploration.
It is alien. It is alien.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then also the other thing as well is that something which is hinted at in the games and in Alien vs Predator, the first film, is that aliens don't show up on conventional visualization methods. So things like heat sensitivity or versions of radar.
So does that mean that they're the same temperature as their surroundings? No, well, I don't know, but that might be why they need it so hot. Sorry, I've just gone on to a little like.
Well, no, that's a possibility. Maybe they do run hot. Maybe that's it. But then again, thing is though, in the Arctic, in the Antarctic rather, sorry, in AVP, they don't show up against their background either. So this idea of them being just, and this is again where that phrase, the perfect life form, comes in. They can camouflage as well beautifully. So this idea, this notion of connection, but also to each other, but also not being able to track them. That's another way in which you can bring in horror, because
then you could,
because in the first film they do it using air movements, don't they? It's micro air movements apparently. I don't know how that works, but
no, well, it actually isn't, because Ripley challenges it, so they don't really know what they're tracking with it, do they? Because Ash is like half-assed something together, and then they don't really know what it is, but Ripley's skeptical about what he says because she doesn't trust him, and she's right, her instincts are good.
And then he tries to force a magazine down her throat.
Which I remember watching as a kid when I was like 7 or something, and not really understanding how that would kill you, because isn't there always going to be a gap in the middle?
Well, I think just through sheer trauma, physical trauma, maybe.
It's like,
or it's just underscoring that male female dynamic.
Yeah, it is a little bit like,
Yeah.
here, have a big, like, phallic shaped object down your throat.
Yeah, indeed.
To choke on. Sorry.
See, now
I think I just took that too far.
Is that where we're ending?
I was just thinking maybe we should have ended previously and not gone down this little like tributary of saying that on a podcast. I am slightly ashamed right now.
But it's entirely thematic, as you say. It's about violation as well.
And the theme of rape is actually very prevalent in that movie in terms of the, like, I mean, it's not vaginal rape, it's mouth rape, but you know, rape is rape.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We can't end there, though.
Well, let's end on a happier note. Let's end on, like, we'll summarize it in a nice way. So we'll say that there are lots of themes of feminism and womanhood that come through, strong characters that we know and love, lots of opportunities for exploration in terms of the wider world, wider space. Neither of us are interested in the home planet because we live here now and it's fine. And we want to go back a little bit to the roots to find the horror and the terror element of being hunted and pursued and prey items to these tremendously amazing, perfect life forms.
Yeah, these terrifying creatures. And that's what they should be. Yeah.
Yeah. So next time.
Yes, next time. Next month.
Next month. So we're going to have a little bit of a change next month, aren't we?
Yeah.
We are not going to be talking about movies. We are going to be discussing our love of particular computer games. So I think we're going to have a chat about, I don't know, the computer games that made us.
Yeah, well, that's quite a good way of putting it. Yeah.
So a bit of a change, but I think, I mean, we don't just want this podcast to be about films, do we? We want it to be about kind of consumable media in a different, like lots of different things.
Exactly. Yes. The diner can go in all manner of different directions. Yes.
Yes, simultaneously.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And so yes, we're obviously still on Instagram at Elserealm Diner. Please follow us, like us on our podcast platforms.
Please like us.
Yeah, listen, tell your friends.
Friends.
We're a new podcast. We are not above begging for word of mouth recommendations. So if you feel that this would be something other people might enjoy, please let other people know. Yes, but we would love to have you with us on our next stopping point for our refined eating tastes and diner menu choices.
Delectation and delight.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, and also as well, please do comment on, because we put up the thumbnail for the YouTube version of this podcast on Instagram every month, and do comment there below if you want to, if there's anything in particular that you'd like us to talk about.
Or you could tell us that we're wrong or right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But of course, at some point we're going to talk about the Batman as well.
Yes, I think that has to come up at some point.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to put this out there because I'm not sure I've fully convinced you yet, but I'm going to make it happen. We need to have an episode on Stephen King.
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. Fine by me.
I really want to do an episode on Stephen King. I think that'd be so much fun.
I agree. And also, we need to do an episode on when they do the physical release on Matrix. Matrix Resurrections, and because really that's what got us into thinking about recording this stuff. The conversation that we started having about Resurrections, and surprisingly, there's a lot there to talk about. And
I mean, we must have at least spent, I don't know, 6 hours talking about Matrix related things over the course of about a month and stuff. And we just kept on going and going, oh, what about this? And what about this? And then it all started again when we watched it. And also, Mark, did I go and see this one without you? I think I did, didn't I?
You did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I betrayed Mark because it came out and I was free and he wasn't. And I was like,
and we were going to go, and you just went, I've been there, I've seen it.
That's not exactly how it was. It was more like, I need to make a confession
Yeah.
I need to make a
Yeah.
confession because I've been naughty and I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I went to see it and I won't tell you anything. And we need to go straight away because I need to see it again.
Yeah, even though me and the wonderful Mrs. Soup were very happy to go and see it with you at some point, you just went along anyway. You just you abandoned.
Yeah, but you weren't available and it had just been released and I was in such sincere anticipation it couldn't be waited.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
we should probably end it there because I feel like we're just talking about random stuff now. But anyway, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Else Realm Diner.
Else. Realm. Diner.